So I think there's always a danger of this when you get a new signing come in. You're immediately onto YouTube. You look at the highlights reel, and you fall in love with a guy based on 5 or 6, clips. And I think there was enough signs of Moore's cameos in Spurs last year when he was sort of dipped into the team under Ange Postecoglou. You think, no, but this boy's got the world at his feet. He's absolutely dynamite on travelling with the ball. I think a lot of fans were expecting to see signs of that, and obviously under Russell Martin's system, and we know the issues with that, how possession focused it was, and how much seemed to be the overall point of it. It was just to keep the ball rather than actually creating chances. But I think most people will agree that he struggled in his early weeks. But since Danny Rose came in, there's been a wee move inside, close at the striker, close at the other midfielders, just in that central channel, inside sort of left channel. I think you're really now starting to see what this kid's all about. His ability to drive at players, to link up, just do wee 1-2s, and obviously, takes his goal extremely well at the weekend. Really unfortunate to have a second one with the VAR decision. Do you think now, this is a kid that can really maybe, provide that missing spark that the team has been absolutely, desperate crying out for most of the season so far?
I do. Listen, it's a lot to put on his young shoulders at 18 to that kind of responsibility to go and kind of lead the team and create chances and score goals. But I'm so happy for Mikey Moore that he's finding a bit of form, because I genuinely felt the criticism of him during that Russell Martin tenure was really unfair on such a young boy. Listen, Mikey Moore is a top player. Anybody that watched his kind of progression at Spurs and with England youths and that, you don't have that progression, and you don't do what he did down there, breaking into a Spurs team.
Just doesn't.
Exactly. He was electric at times down there in the wee kind of cameos that he had. So you could see he's a good player. Doesn't he turn into a bad player overnight just because he comes up the road. He came into a bad situation at Rangers where the manager was toiling from the start. The crowd were on the team's back. The team weren't winning games. A really kind of toxic situation. You think for a young boy going in his first loan, must be really difficult to come into that and really show what you're all about. So I tried to kind of stick up for him when he was getting a bit of flack at that time, because you just knew there was a player in there. And you're right, it's just taking that, the change of manager, and Danny Rose just giving him a bit more, instilling a bit of belief in him again, and also just, as you say, giving him that freedom. That's been the key. Initially when Rose changed to that kind of 3-4-2-1 system, playing Mikey Moore in one of the positions just off the striker was key, because you could have tried him at wing back, because he's obviously naturally a wide player, but just giving him that wee bit more license to get involved in the games, you say, get close to the strikers. You were beginning to see him flourish. He came off the bench against Celtic at Hampden. I thought made a real impact, running at players, going at people, committing defenders and midfielders, creating chances. And then that's just kind of continued, culminating in the performance on Sunday, where, as I say, I think he was maybe on for about an hour or something, 65 minutes. I thought he was excellent, Rangers' best player. And we obviously spoke to him after the game. I think he's like a likeable wee guy. And he wants to do well. He's desperate to do well at Rangers.
Well, this is what I was going to ask you, because I think it was you that asked the question to him after the game, and you're talking about just what you're saying there about coming into that sort of really difficult, almost toxic environment. And he said something like after the game that mentally this move has been incredible for him. Like, he's had to sort of man up effectively. I think that was your intro to an effect in today's paper. That he's come up a boy, but whatever happens, he's going to go back down a man. He'll have to do a lot of growing up, and the fact that he's acknowledging that this mental test is as much about becoming a top player and passing that mental test. Is as much about becoming a top player as whatever that you can do with the ball at your feet. I think that's encouraging because we've seen guys in this Rangers team already this season that have admitted that mentally they found it difficult. I think Max Sallins has said something along those lines a couple of times that he wasn't prepared for the pressure, the scrutiny that he's under. And, listen, there's few clubs in the world where you do face this, but the fact that Mikey Moore seems to, when I asked him, we spoke to him after the Roma game as well, and I asked him if he'd regretted coming up here, and he's kind of looked at me as if I'd, insulted his mum. I mean, it was like, what are you talking about? No, this is going to do wonders for my career. This is, if I can come here and, okay, maybe the team doesn't, thrive, but if he can come here and at least walk away with his head held high at the end of his year loan, and know that he's performed, know that he's did his bit, and that'll do him wonders, for him next stage of his development. Doing it again, Spurs, we know it's okay, it's maybe not the same pressure level, but that's a club that's a testing environment down there at times as well. So I mean, I just like the fact that he is showing that willingness to embrace the peculiarities of life up in Glasgow is so refreshing, because not many players, certainly in this Rangers team, seem to be enjoying that side of things.
Yeah, and that's the key, is that he actually contributes. Because look, there's an argument there to say, well, why should Rangers be developing Spurs players for the benefit of Spurs and the individual, because he will undoubtedly go back to Spurs far more rounded, as you say, with more experience, toughened up, a better player overall. And that's true, but that's just the reality of where Rangers are in terms of trying to sign Premier League players. But the key to that is, that's fine if he actually contributes to Rangers and contributes to winning games and contributes to winning trophies, because then it'll be worth it. When you send them back to Spurs, you send him on his way again quite happily, that he's made a really significant contribution. I mean, I suppose it's similar to when Amad Diallo came up from Man United. I think if you asked him or anyone at Man U, they'll tell you that as much as he might not have played as much as he would have liked, that loan move to Rangers under Giovanni Van Bronckhorst probably really helped him. And you look at Diallo now,
I think it was a wake-up call to him, because I think he realised then he has to raise his levels and raise his output.
But the difference is that when you look back at Diallo's time at Rangers, he didn't really contribute as much as he would have liked. Whereas I think Mikey Moore's different. I think he can. And I think you're right. I think he's got the mentality. He admits that it was tough at the start, but as you say, he doesn't start crying about it and want to go back to London, back to his kind of safe space. He wants to embrace it. So I think that's really encouraging. And it feels like, I don't know if you agree, but it feels like Moore and Rowe coming together is almost there's a kind of perfect match there, in terms of manager and player.